I've inherited my grandfather's old ranch, and it's up to me to bring it back to its former glory. Can I do it, or will these chickens get the best of me? Welcome to 100 Days of Ranch Simulator. All decked out in my farming outfit, I made my way from the bus stop to my newly inherited ranch. My grandfather had left me a note, along with some cash and a pistol in the attic, apparently to deal with the wild animals I might run into. Oh, fun. It didn't take me long to get the old UTV up and running next. Learning to drive it, on the other hand, is going to take a while. To the gas station. I was pretty impressed that you actually have to get the nozzle out to fill it up. This simulator is really simulating. I drove to the bank after that, then went next door to check out all the vehicles I could buy. I stopped in at the shop too, wasting some money painting my UTV. Look, isn't it pretty? Now just watch me try to park it. Perfect. The hardware store had a bunch of stuff. For now though, I settled on the table saw, a few tools, and some materials I really didn't need yet. When I went to load it in, I found that the planks just wouldn't fit. Well, they would, I just didn't know how yet. So I left them and continued on to my next destination. I'm sure I'll get the hang of this thing eventually. When I made it to the general store, it had all sorts of animals. For now, I think a couple of chickens will do fine. Not that I could afford anything else. Back at the ranch, I set out the chickens, and luckily there was an old bag of feed and some water. Then I started plans for a small chicken coop. It needed planks, of course, and I set up the table saw by the garage, filled it up with some fuel, and started cutting. It was getting really dark though, and I decided to call it a night before I lost a finger or something. I checked on the chickens the next morning and got right back to work sawing logs. When I ran out though, I couldn't figure out how to get my axe to chop this tree. I was almost positive I'd bought an axe, but all I could get out was my shovel and this crowbar. I went all the way back to the hardware store to see if I'd left it, and even bought another one, only to find out that I had in fact had one the whole time. You just have to make sure you have this hand tool selected, then you walk up to a tree and can chop it. Well, that was a fun waste of time and money. Either way, I did finish the coop that day, before spending the evening tearing down the old house and barn. It was day 2, according to the game's day counter, and the chickens seemed to be doing just fine. But I hadn't found any eggs yet. I wanted a better setup for their food and water, and went to chop some trees that morning, finding that the logs also wouldn't fit in the UTV. Oh. I tried dropping them in this time. Yeah. This was definitely not the way. It's all gonna stay. Oh no! I'll figure it out eventually. I gathered them back up and just carried them to the saw instead. Here you go, chickies. After that, I got really ambitious and decided I needed to rebuild the house. 23 planks later, I had the wooden frame done. It was the 80 concrete I needed that was gonna be the problem. Back to the chickens then. They'd laid 2 eggs now, which I put in the egg basket, before starting work on a fence for their coop. The morning of day 3, I collected 2 more eggs and took a nice shortcut to the general store to sell them. Yum. It's pretty easy. You just park in the sell area and use the kiosk inside to select what you want to sell. The eggs were even more expensive than eggs in real life, at $6 a piece instead of a dozen, so I will definitely be needing more chickens. I bought 2 more hens and a rooster too, along with some more food. Better hold on tight, chickens. No. I finished their fence and took off to the hardware store next. Excuse me. Where I spent almost all of my money on materials for my house. Yeah, I really shouldn't have. But look, I've got a TV now. The chickens had a few more eggs and some poop to clean up this time. Then I sawed some more logs before sawing logs in the bed that night. Good night. After checking on the chickens again the next morning, I spent all of day 4 building a barn and fence. Since it only needed wood planks, I didn't have to spend any money at least, just a bit of patience and time. Still working on the barn the next day, I took a quick break to run to the general store, selling the eggs and buying more feed. I'd already wasted most of my money on building the house and barely had enough to buy it. Then spent all the rest on fuel for the saw. I've got more building to do. With no money at all to do anything else, I spent day 6 just hanging around the ranch. I took care of my chickens, who tried to attack me for taking this egg, debated on demolishing the last of the old buildings, thought about hunting something with my pistol, and ended up spending the evening making more planks. By the morning of day 7, I had enough eggs to sell to buy more food to keep the chickens alive. I was starting to worry, so that was nice. Desperate for money, I tried selling some of the planks, but I still couldn't get them in the UTV and carried the stack to the store instead. Then I took the UTV to the hardware store to sell the ones I'd left there for half the price I'd paid for them. Sometimes you just gotta learn the hard way. Maybe one day I'll get one of these trailers so I can finally haul planks. As I pulled back into the driveway after the trip, I spotted an opportunity I just couldn't pass up. I wonder how much deer meat is worth. I hunted 2 of them for 3 meat each, and fitting it in the back was its own little puzzle. At the general store, it sold for 15 apiece. I'll take it. They were easy to kill, and I hunted 1 more that day, spending the money on an extra bag of wheat for the chickens. Then started work back at the ranch on a second, slightly bigger chicken coop before doing a bit of ranch flicks and chill that night. I took more eggs to sell on day 8, bought another chicken I named Susan, along with more feed and some seeds. Then, just to keep things interesting, I spent all my money again on some new metal for the chicken coop. Look, Susan, isn't it nice? I used some leftover planks to build this house for the dog I'll get eventually, and started trying to plant those seeds next. I took them to the fields, but couldn't figure out a way to plant them there. Apparently, I'll get to use those later. These little seed packets have to be planted in plant plots instead. The large ones take a whole 18 planks each and hold 2 plants. I put pumpkins in them, watered them with the bucket, and started work on a second plot. As I was getting the seeds, though, I made a game-changing discovery. Okay, let's just plant... Ooh! You can put down the tailgate on the UTV. So really, I could have been hauling planks all along. Oh! Oh, that's life-changing. Okay, so you can fit planks if you put the tailgate down, guys. Pro tip. That's going to make things a lot easier. Ooh, I can put planks in my stuff now. Planks in the UTV. Come on, pumpkins. Pretty excited about my new discovery, I spent the whole next day filling my UTV with planks to build more plant plots. Good night, pumpkins. Good night, chickens. My water tank ran out on day 10, which for some reason I wasn't expecting. I took it, along with eggs and more wild meat I found on the way, to the general store to sell. The tank itself was only worth $2, but the other stuff replenished my bank account enough for me to buy another water tank and some cabbage seeds this time. After that, I went all the way to the hardware store and thought about buying some concrete for a well, when I realized I was running low on gas. Guess I should probably take care of that first. I took a different way around to the station this time, and I'm pretty sure I saw some wolves on the way, but I wasn't about to stop and get a better look. I filled up and went back to the ranch, where I unloaded the water tank and then started loading up my first pumpkins. Oops. Better feed the chickens too. I was happy to find the pumpkins could stack and spent the rest of the day sawing logs into planks to finish the next row of planters. I'd made enough for the 10 watermelon seeds I had, then collected the chicken eggs before going to bed. Despite building a house, I'd been sleeping in the tent a lot. It was just quicker to get to, and if I want to get this place fixed in 100 days, I don't have much time to spare. The rest of the pumpkins were done that morning, and stacking them was a bit finicky, but I managed to stack them 3 high to fit all 10 in the back of my UTV. They sold for 10 each, and I spent the money on another chicken and some feed. At the ranch, I noticed most of the pumpkins were growing again, but some of them had something wrong. So I drove back to the store and found this agricultural medicine. It was way too expensive for now, though. Oh well, back to the ranch again. By the evening, the watermelons were done. They did not stack in the UTV, and I tried to drop one in the middle. I thought it might work this time until it flew out as I was going down the driveway. I tried again, only for it to nope even harder out of the back and fly up into the sky. Well, I guess we're just taking 7. They might have grown faster, but they were only worth $7 a piece, and I think I'll spend it on another water tank. With all these crops, I'm going to need it. I finished the evening taking care of the chickens. I had a rooster now, Henry, and I was hoping to eventually get some chicks, so I thought I'd just leave an egg for a while and see what happened. Also, despite this rain, I still had to water the crops that night. I loaded up another round to sell early on day 12, barely fitting the watermelon I'd lost the day before, and this deer I found on the way. Then at the store, I spent most of my money on the very expensive agriculture medicine, to find it only has 8 uses. Considering you can buy a whole new pack of 10 seeds for $10, the math just isn't mathing on this one. I could only get half my money selling it back, so I took it home to find the stuff didn't even work. Well, not for this anyway. I had another load ready that evening, and found you actually can stack the watermelon. Then just bought some new pumpkin seeds to replace the dead ones. Would have been a lot cheaper if I'd just done that in the first place. And look at me, watering plants in the rain again. That might be one of the most annoying things in this game, especially in the earlier stages. Well, maybe it is time to build that well. The next morning, I took another load to sell, including this $5 cabbage, then headed down to the hardware store. I didn't even hit anything this time as I pulled in to order up some concrete and metal. The way out was another story. At the turn, I saw my first bear rearing up to say hello. Sorry, Smokey, I gotta go. I finished the well with the concrete and took care of the garden and chickens before taking the metal to finish this stall I'd started in the barn. The rest of the day, I stocked up on planks and crawled into bed that night to watch some more of this awesome TV. I'd given up on that egg hatching and sold it. I'm pretty sure I need to use this ovoscope, I just couldn't afford it yet. Instead, I bought more feed and this little sprinkler. I stuck it in the ground, figuring it was probably too good to be true. And of course it was. You need a windmill to make them work. Back to the bucket. I was producing a lot of vegetables now, but it was taking me every minute to keep it up. I preferred the pumpkins so far. They stacked the easiest and took longer to grow, but sold for more. I wanted to test out the other plants too, though, and picked up some bell pepper seeds on my next trip. With more food for the chickens too, of course. I finished up a third row for the new bell peppers that day, and took even more stuff to sell, buying a steel bucket this time and that ovoscope I'd been eyeing, which honestly looks a bit like an egg toaster to me. I slept in for a bit the next morning until I remembered I had a new toy to test out. The ovoscope pretty much just shines a light through the egg so you can see if it's fertilized or not, and lucky me, the first one I grabbed was. The glossary in the menu said you can just leave them out with the chickens to hatch, so I placed it back in the coop. I was half right, I suppose. Better clean up the poop. I was happy to find the bell peppers were ready to pick on day 17, until I actually started picking them. They had 5 bunches of peppers for me to collect from each, for a total of 50 to load up from my 10 plants. Yeah, I am not a fan. Let's see how much money they make though. At $2 each for a total of $100, I decided I'd just buy more pumpkins for now, thanks. My new well was working great at least, and despite not liking them, I watered the peppers anyway. Surely there is an easier way to collect these. After a second round of collecting bell peppers, I decided I needed one of these harvest trailers. If you play the game, you'll know this is dumb. I did not. I needed a bit more money first, so I went home to collect some eggs. I checked them with the ovoscope, which was quite the time. Then I put one fertilized one back and loaded them up with the next round of pumpkins to sell. Now I can get that trailer. I guess I was hoping I'd be able to magically drop more of the vegetables into it instead of stacking them on the UTV, but that's not how it works. Once I bought it, I couldn't even hitch it. I hadn't hitched anything yet and thought maybe I was doing something wrong at first, and took a break to go fill up at the gas station, then came back that night to try again. Eventually I gave up, deciding I probably needed a bigger vehicle or tractor to haul it, and felt very dumb having wasted so much money on another thing I can't even use yet. Is it bad I kinda just wish these pepper plants would die? Several of them did, actually, and they will not be replaced. But look, I got my first baby chick today. I picked lots of peppers and pumpkins on day 19, planted some tomatoes in a new row, and then spent a while watching the garden grow. I had another new baby chick on day 20, sold even more peppers and pumpkins, and built this new plank rack for my plank stack. After the harvest trailer debacle, I was a little nervous, but ended up buying another trailer. This one a small trailer that I was pretty sure would hook up to the UTV. It was more expensive at $600, and they dropped it right on top of the harvest trailer. I managed to flip it off of it, then made quite the mess when I tried to hook up to it. Well, that was fun. And driving with it was even more fun. Look, my tomatoes are done. They were just as annoying as the peppers really, but maybe a little easier to stack. At $6 a piece though, they were sure a lot more worth my time. I got strawberries to try next and planted them where I let the peppers die. I had 40 plants going now, and it was taking a lot of time to water them all. If only the rain in this game actually worked. Better collect some eggs while I'm at it. Okay, never mind. You can have it back. Apparently, the reason the chickens have been attacking sometimes when I pick up an egg is because it's fertilized. It mentions this in the glossary. I just must have glossed over that part. Day 22, I watered the crops and the chickens, then gathered the strawberries to sell. There is actually a much easier way to do this. I just didn't know what it was yet. Look at all these pumpkins I can fit on my new trailer though. I bought myself this composter that day to pick up the poop, but I'd already cleaned it up that morning. Guess I'll just collect these tomatoes for now. Gathering strawberries took up most of my morning on day 23. I'm gonna feel really dumb when I find out how much easier it is to do this. I also got to test out the composter. The chicken poop barely fills it at all, which I suppose makes sense. Then I took the ovoscope to the garage and started checking eggs again. Only problem was I kept hitting the wrong button and dropping the eggs. Yeah, they definitely won't hatch like that. Despite having a hard time driving with it, I was really enjoying my new trailer. Oh, careful there. Okay. This load alone made me almost $600, and I figured it was time to get some more animals.
That one. And that one.
How about some goats? Now if I can just figure out how to get them home. I tried first to lead them onto the trailer.
Get up in here, buddy. Put in the trailer. Yes. No.
Then eventually I realized there was a prompt to load them in the UTV. There we go. Hold on, guys.
Oh, hey. Do we need to go to the barn?
Welcome home, Judy and Jimmy.
Get in here, Jimmy.
After putting them in the lot by the barn, it hit me I hadn't even thought about food for them. Luckily though, they just take the same bag of wheat the chickens eat. I'd bought this small pail too, which you can use to collect milk from the goats. Jimmy had to watch over my shoulder, but it was easy enough and I took it straight to sell. Good thing it doesn't seem to spill. For the one bucket, I got $12, which wasn't bad. The real moneymaker is turning it into cheese. I just don't have enough money to get the things I need.
Oh. Oops.
I milked the goat again the next morning, packed up pumpkins, gathered chicken eggs, and made another trip to sell it all. It was just enough to get a few bags of feed, but you gotta spend money to make money, right? Oh yay, the tomatoes are ready again. Can't wait to pick those. Just let me hook up this trailer first. Collecting all the smaller veggies and fruit was definitely a bit frustrating, but I took a moment to be thankful that I didn't have to carry them all in to sell at least. This trip gave me just enough money to buy something else really dumb, this giant bag of wheat seeds. I wasn't completely clueless. I had a feeling it was probably for the bigger fields. I was just tired of buying bags of wheat to feed the animals and figured it was worth a try. On my way home though, I had a bit of an accident. It took me a while to undo the mess. I actually started to worry I was going to have to buy a whole new trailer. When I finally got it free, I decided I'd just drop the trailer off at the driveway before going to get gas. I'm back. The wheat definitely did not work in the plots, and I set it to the side for now, before getting back to the usual farm chores. I bought this pan and a milk can. This wasn't the smartest move, but I tried putting the strawberries in the pan, which didn't work at all. The milk pan works great though, and holds a lot more milk than the small bucket. I decided to save it to turn into cheese, as the milk alone just wasn't worth that much. I stopped by the hardware store on my next trip and bought some metal. I needed it and a few planks to make this curing cabinet for the cheese. Then, after reading the glossary, I learned I needed one more thing to be able to make it: a stove. I was living paycheck to paycheck still at this point though, and had to wait until my next load of produce before I could afford it. Then I went back to the hardware store. It was actually called a compact cooker, and I put it right on top of the curing cabinet. I grabbed the pan, filled it with milk, and set it on top of the cooker, and it didn't take long to turn into curd, which I stuck in the cabinet. Well, that was easy enough. I'd bought this cooler too, figuring maybe I needed it to transport cheese, when I had another idea. Maybe I can put the produce in it. I tried the pumpkin first, but obviously that didn't work. Then I used it to harvest all the strawberries on this plant at once. I think I was in a bit of shock. I was so excited I didn't even mind it had taken me this long to figure it out. I'm actually excited for these tomato plants to be ready. Look, there's one now. I filled up the cooler the next morning. It only holds 24. Then I stacked the rest and headed straight to the store to buy some more. I also bought some feed and this expensive grape seed.
Ah!
Yeah. Ooh, yeah.
Oh.
And when I got back to the ranch, I found quite the surprise: a baby goat.
Yes, it's so cute. You should name it Bob.
All the cheese was done too, and it was big, but stacks well at least. I planted the grapes and watered everything. Or maybe I wasn't the one doing the watering.
Water, water. Water. That tomato needs water. Speeny, 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 speeny. Give me that bucket to water the tomatoes.
Day 29, I milked the goat, started more cheese, and took my first load of cheese to sell. Turns out the plain goat cheese is worth $50 each, which is a lot more than the milk alone, and I spent most of it stocking up on feed. With the new goats and the extra chicks that were hatching, we were going through it pretty quick. I tried to milk the goat again after lunch, but I guess it was too early. Later that day, I was more successful, taking it straight to the pan to turn it into cheese. Day 30, I milked the goat, made more cheese, and at the store, I bought some mold to add to the cheese this time. Moldy cheese. With the new coolers, gardening was taking a lot less time, and I spent part of the day sawing more planks. I wanted to build something else, I just wasn't sure what yet. Oh, it's raining. Better water the plants anyway. Some of the plants went through water a lot faster, so I was watering them at least twice a day. The chickens, on the other hand, hardly ever needed water at all, despite the fact I had about 10 of them now. I had another new goat that morning too. Isn't it cute? With so many chickens, I figured I might as well sell one. I was making a lot more money now with the cheese, and made my biggest purchase yet that day, this milking machine. Come here, Judy. I hadn't read the instructions well and couldn't figure out how to work it. You're supposed to put the big milk can where I was trying to put the bucket. At first, I thought maybe the goat just didn't need to be milked yet, and tried again later that day. Well, guess I'll just have to do it the old-fashioned way. Maybe it needs fuel. Nope. I decided to ovoscope more chicken eggs that evening. Selling the chicken was worth the full $50 you can buy them for, and definitely worth hatching some more, if only I could stop accidentally dropping them. On day 32, I decided maybe you could only use the milking machine on cows, so I bought this dairy cow. Meet Clarabelle. She didn't fit in the UTV, and I walked her down the hill to the ranch. That was easy enough, but trying to get her in with the goats was another story. When I opened the gate, the goats all tried to escape. I got the goats wrangled and put Clarabelle in the barn for now. Then, of course, when I opened the barn door, all the goats tried to get in there too. Eventually, I managed to set up the milking machine in the barn to test on the cow. She didn't even need milked at the time, but I still didn't have it fixed right, so it wouldn't have worked anyway. In the meantime, I harvested these new pineapples I planted and took them to sell, along with this new moldy goat cheese. It sold for way more than plain at $115, and the pineapples sold for $30. I'll take some more mold, thanks. Day 33, I had my first cow cheese ready to sell. It was worth a little more than the goat cheese at $60 for a plain wheel, and this time I was saving up to buy something even bigger. So the next day I took this grown-up goat to sell along with a load of pumpkins and cheese, then headed over to the hardware store where I realized I was just short of what I needed, and sold the harvest trailer for half its original price to buy this $1,500 stack of metal, which I took home to build my first windmill. I was tired of carrying buckets and felt like this was the best investment I could make, giving me more time to do other things. Once it was built, I checked its range to find it barely covered all my crops, and only the one corner of the chicken coop. Apparently, it can not only run sprinklers, but also fills up any watering troughs in range. I destroyed the old watering trough and made a new one. It seems like you only get half of the material back when you destroy stuff, so no way was I moving the windmill. And look, now my sprinkler works. I only had one for now and decided it was easier just to move it down the row instead of using the bucket for the rest. There we go. I was making enough money, I went ahead and bought the rest of the sprinklers the next day. They were only $25 each, and I needed 5 more. I found that with my setup, each one could water about 8 plants at once, and ended up with 3 between every 2 rows. The grapes were finally done after that, and 2 of them died as I harvested them. I'm not sure why, but it seems like a random few plants just die every now and then when I harvest. The next morning, I went to sell the grapes, along with a few other things, and decided it was time for more new animals. Get in the back now, piggies. Just don't mind this meat grinder and sausage stuffer I'm putting in too. They clearly knew something was up and made a run for it when I unloaded them, but I caught them each and led them to this nice barn stall before starting work on some troughs. See, you guys will love it here. I'd found taking care of the plants was a lot more fun since I didn't have to water them anymore, and started working on 2 more rows. I was out of planks though, and realized at 16 planks apiece, that was going to take a while. So I sold another load and decided to buy myself a better saw. I was making plenty of money now and bought some metal I needed for this meat cabinet too. Before I can test out the new saw though, I've got some chores to do. Oh, and a deer to shoot. I was hoping to test out the meat grinder with it, but I don't guess it works with deer meat. I had a rough morning on day 38. I was trying to milk a goat and ended up getting myself stuck inside the wall of the barn. I debated on demolishing it, but didn't really want to do that, and ended up just reloading the day. Let's try that again. I was careful this time not to milk it near the wall. Another baby had grown up, so I had a second one to milk too, and already 2 more babies. I milked the cow and checked the pigs, which had grown substantially. Then it was time to sell some cheese. With all these animals, I'm definitely going to need more feed. I also made a run to the gas station while I was out. It was finally time to fuel up that luxury saw to test out. It was definitely faster than the old one, but still produced the same 2 planks per log, and by the next morning, I still hadn't finished all the new plant plots. I took a break from working on them to take care of the chores, and when I went to clean out the pig stall, the pigs were so big now they didn't even bother to escape. I took my biggest stack of cheese yet to sell and made the most money I'd had so far too, so of course I had to go spend it. I was tired of carrying buckets of water for the pigs and goats and went to buy another $1,500 stack of metal for a second windmill, which for some reason I also thought would power the milking machine. It didn't, but it does fill the water troughs over here at least, and I did finally figure out the milking machine, putting the milk can on it. Oh, this is way faster. Now, if I could just keep up with turning it all into cheese. To help with that, I took a trip to the hardware store the next day and bought 2 more of the cookers, along with some metal for a second cheese cabinet. It still needed more planks too, though, just like those plant plots I still hadn't finished. I got back to making more planks finally on day 41, and when I took them to finish the cabinet, I found there were a bunch of piglets in the stall. Aw, we're gonna have all kinds of bacon to sell. With this new cheese setup, I could cook 2 curds at a time now, which made things go a lot faster, and I had more space to cure all the extra cheese. After that, I finished the new planting rows and spent the evening sawing logs for another project. A pen for all the pigs. Time to sell some more cheese, 'cause I need a bunch of feed. It took me a while to get all the pigs in their new lot that day. While I was working on it, this deer went in the barn and rewound himself right back out. Then I took a little break from pig wrangling to work on more cheese and harvest a few things. Then it was time to move the big pigs. They were so big I had to open both gates for them while the little ones tried to escape. Now back to the cheese. It's no wonder cheese was keeping me busy. Look at all the goats I have now. I had even more cheese to sell that evening and bought even more feed too. Then, as I was unloading some mold I'd bought, I watched one of the pigs escape. It had walked up the troughs and right over the fence, just like this other one did when I was trying to put the first one back in. Some of the little ones ran out the open gate too, and then it was dark. Great. I turned on the lights on the UTV, which may have just made it worse, honestly. It was quite the night. I think I'll just go ahead and move this water trough right now. I'm pretty sure it was working like a stair step beside the food trough, so hopefully they won't be able to escape now. I'd been using that plant medicine. Sometimes they get this little sick symbol and start to die, but they also seem to die just randomly after harvest. Either way, this medicine isn't worth it in my opinion. I could just buy more seeds to replace the plants a lot cheaper. Oops, must have missed a couple pigs yesterday. Then it was time to milk the cow and goats, who were also giving me a lot of trouble trying to escape. And that evening I had my biggest sale yet. A goat, a chicken, plenty of fruit, and lots of cheese, bringing my bank account above $4,000 for the first time. Day 44 was mostly the usual: planting, milking, cheesing, and composting. Then I had a problem. Big Mr. Pig was stuck on the water trough, and I wasn't about to rebuild it again. I had been planning to, turn him into sausage to sell anyway, so I looked for some sort of prompt to slaughter him. Surely you don't just shoot him, but I couldn't figure out any other way, and that's what I did. I really didn't expect it to be so dramatic. All the little pigs and even the cows and goats ran, and when I skinned it, the meat just exploded everywhere. Well, guess that's one way to do it. On top of that, I didn't know yet you could put meat in the coolers. Look at me trying to pick it all up and fit it in the back of the UTV. Isn't that cute? Also, after I put it in the meat grinder, I didn't realize you had to keep it in the pan to put it through the sausage stuffer, and thought since I couldn't grind the wild meat, maybe I had to have beef for that. I mean, pork sausage is way more common, I think, but I don't know, games are weird sometimes. Either way, we're doing pork meatballs for now. Just don't mind me dropping them on the ground every now and then. Now let's load up more cheese to sell. I was making so much money, I splurged and bought the electric meat grinder that evening. When I got back, I was still trying to figure out the sausage stuffer with no luck, and just set it to the side for the new electric grinder. It wasn't much faster. The main convenience is just not having to hold the button while it grinds, so I've got my hands free to do other things. Luckily, I figured out you could put the meatballs in the cooler before I tried stacking them all in the back to sell. They ended up being worth $40 each, which added up pretty quick. Over the next few days, I sold goats, a bunch of meatballs and cheese, more goats, and then some fruit and cheese, which had left me with quite a bit of money. Of course, it was about time to buy something else I didn't need, so I bought myself this grain header and cultivator. Yeah, I don't think that's gonna fit on the trailer. I figured they were probably intended for the tractor, and instead grabbed some metal and planks to build more curing cabinets. I had plenty of money and was tired of sawing logs myself. I took 2 more loads to sell on day 48, then stopped in at the car dealership. It's time to spend some real money. Not only did I buy a tractor, but I bought this big truck too. I figured the tractor was probably pretty slow, so I had a plan. I took the truck to the hardware shop where I bought this giant car trailer, which felt like I was pulling the Titanic around town. Then I backed it in at the dealership to load up my UTV and the new tractor. Apparently, I missed a step. As I pulled out with both of them, the UTV rolled right off the side. I pulled the tractor up to the front this time and noticed the prompt to attach it to the trailer, then reloaded the UTV. Then reloaded the UTV again. I strapped it down too, or so I thought. When I pulled into the driveway though, it was gone. Oops, sorry about that, sir. I'm pretty sure you can only attach one vehicle at a time to this trailer, but I tried again anyway. I loaded the tractor up the next day and headed to the hardware store, where I had to untangle some things before trying to attach this cultivator. I thought I could also attach this weed header to the tractor for some reason, but that shows you what I know. I realized I must need something else for that and started to load up the tractor again. Well, apparently the game did not like this plan. The trailer started trying to buck it off. I tried moving the truck, but eventually gave up. When I realized the tractor was almost out of fuel, I remembered I'd wanted to buy an extra jerry can, but instead ended up buying this whole fuel trailer. I parked the tractor for now, then parked the big car trailer, before backing up to hook up to the fuel trailer. Once I got it to the gas station, it took me $1,000 and almost 2 hours to fill it. While I was catching up on chores the next morning, I noticed I had a whole new litter of piglets and decided to take another grown one in for sausage. This time I took it to the barn at least, so the others couldn't see. I also had more goats than I could keep up with and sold 2 of them, before heading to the hardware store to buy a bunch of materials for something very exciting. While I was there though, I couldn't resist taking this deer for a ride on my tractor. Okay, back to work now. It's time to build my first grain silo. I was surprised to find it was as simple to fill up as it was. Just hold R and for $200 it's done. With that done, I won't have to buy bags of feed anymore, or fill up the troughs, well, except for the chickens. But I'll move them in range soon enough. I stopped by the big fuel tank to fill up the UTV and took another load of cheese, and that's when I finally adopted my first dog.
Good doggy. So he just needs a name. What should we
Benny.
name him? Benny.
Benny.
Really?
Just feels like a good dog.
Benny?
Benny.
Meet Benny. I let the kid name him, of course, and when I got in to drive, Benny got in too. Isn't that cute? I set him up at the doghouse with food and water. Well, I think I gave him water. I'm sure I'll remember in the morning. Nope. Instead, I milked all the appropriate animals and took off on foot to the hardware store. I'm sure he'll be fine. At the hardware store, I picked up my tractor and the cultivator, then gassed it up at the fuel tank before taking it to the fields. As you enter the field, there's a bump on either side, which makes the tractor do a little zigzag. Once I finished it, I headed back to the hardware store to buy a seeder attachment next. This turned out to be the hardest thing to drive yet. It wagged back and forth, pulling my trailer with it. I eventually got it home and loaded up with 2 bags of wheat seed. I couldn't figure out how to make it work at first. There was no prompt to activate it like the cultivator, but it's actually just the same controls. You just click. I didn't have quite enough to plant the whole field and called it a day. I need to take care of the animals anyway. I was making plenty of money to buy pretty much anything. I mean, just look at this stack of cheese. If only I could turn the grapes into wine, then we'd be doing real fine. That day, I bought 3 each of the big seed bags, then bought myself a harvest trailer again. Oh, hey, there's Benny. I fixed one more load to sell and had a look to see what else I could buy. As soon as I saw this stunner, I realized what it was. Sorry, Miss Piggy. Well, it's definitely a quieter method. At the end of the day, I still had a bit of cash burning in my pocket and went again to the dealership where I bought this harvester. This big green machine is just what I need to use that wheat header. For the next 2 days, I did all the usual chores: harvesting, milking, making cheese, selling stuff, feeding chickens, collecting eggs and poop, sawing logs, downsizing the pig population, and grinding meat for meatballs. Then on day 56, it was time to build a new chicken coop in range of the grain silo. But while I was working on it, I made a sad discovery. Benny was dead. Oops. Thankfully, my kid wasn't around to see it, and I quickly got rid of the evidence before getting back to work on the new coop. For now, I just told my kid Benny was lost, as I continued with the usual chores the next morning. I was working on switching all of my plants over to grapes, as they seemed to be the most profitable thing. I was still making a ton of moldy cheese too, and I had so many pigs I didn't know what to do. There were so many I could hardly walk in their pen and couldn't process them fast enough to keep up. I sure was making a lot of money off of it all though. Now it's time to make some more money. Looks like the wheat is ready. I wasn't sure at first until I noticed this gauge on the harvester was filling up. It was much easier to manage the header on the front instead of pulling things behind the tractor. It's kinda like Pac-Man. Oops, hit a bump. I just left it in the harvester when I was done. It's about to get dark and I've got chores to do. Don't mind Trough Goat here. I'm pretty sure he was just born there. I pretty much forgot about the wheat the next day, instead finally finishing my new chicken coop. Of course, I had to milk the goats and cow too, then loaded up 2 to sell, harvested some grapes, and took the trailer over to load up more cheese. Just look how much better I've gotten at driving now. I processed some pig meat too and milked everything again before taking this very large load to sell. And you wouldn't believe it, I found Benny. I took him home and put out a bowl by the barn this time, hoping I wouldn't forget it, and another by the well for water. Then I moved the chickens. This is your new house, guys. Isn't it nice? The pigs were getting even more out of hand on day 59. I got one ready to turn into salami and loaded up 2 more to sell. I wasn't sure if they'd fit at first, but look, it's just fine. They only sold for $150 each, which was not near as much as I'd get if I processed them. I've got plenty more for that though. I loaded up trough goat later too, once I got the UTV in the right spot. Then I loaded 1 more and took them both to sell, before finally remembering I had wheat to unload. It's as simple as pulling up the harvest trailer and switching out this tube on the harvester to dump it. Then I took that off to sell too. I'd only planted 2 bags worth and got right at $1,000 out of the deal. You can use it to fill the grain silo, but I was making so much money now it didn't seem worth the trouble. After loading up the UTV with cheese the next morning and looking at the crowd of pigs again, I decided I needed something better to transport them in. Back to the dealership. I could have bought the animal trailer at the hardware store, but I went with this big box truck instead. Perfect. I took 2 loads of pigs that day to sell in my new truck. Honestly, this wasn't the best decision financially. They were just multiplying too fast and stressing me out. As if to prove my point, another pig escaped that evening. I think it climbed up the smaller ones and over the fence. It was too big to get through this space and I had to take it around the barn, but just as I was about to get it where we were going, it popped out some babies.
No, that is very unfortunate.
You've got to be kidding me. Guess I know what I'll be doing tonight. You know what? I think it's time for a break. Maybe I'll let my kid play for the day.
Get in here. I'm sorry. But you gotta come with me. No! Oh, there's poop. They pooped by their eggs. Hello, pigs. How are you today? Take that. Put it in there. And you turn that on. Take that out of there. Put it in there. Come on in. Nope, just kidding. Get on the towel of cheese up. Thank you.
At the end of the day, she even made sure to feed Benny. Then it was my turn again. I was still collecting pigs on day 62 and finished up the towers of Cheesa. All my grapes were ready too, and I noticed they seemed to deteriorate if you leave them ripe too long. I loaded them all in the box truck to sell, and between all of them, the cheese and the meatballs, I made almost $7,000 with this trip, taking my bank account to over $19,000. Maybe running this old ranch isn't so bad. I picked up some pigs to sell too, and bought a bunch more mold. It makes a big difference in the cheese profits and is totally worth the price. Did you know you can pick these things up with the cooler too? I clearly didn't. Look at all this cheese I sold on day 63. And it's time to plant more wheat seed. Oh look, there's Benny. Sorry, Piggy. On day 64, it was time for even more new animals. Everyone say hi to Larry and Mary. You can milk the sheep too, so I went back to buy another milk can and some sheep mold. Then spent the rest of the day making cheese and processing meat. I spent the morning of day 65 framing out this fence on the other side of the barn for even more new animals. Then realizing it wouldn't be in range of my silo for food or windmill for water, I demolished the whole thing and moved it over here instead. After that, I decided my time was worth the money to buy some planks, along with a few other random things, including this little lawnmower. Look how cute it is. I loaded it up on the trailer and backed up the truck, but when I got out, I think I slammed the door a little harder than I meant to. Guess I just don't know my own strength. Back at home, I finished the fence with Benny supervising, then tested out the lawnmower just for fun. Along with all the usual chores the next morning, I had a new one. It was time to trim the sheep. I took out the UTV full of cheese, picked up a trailer full of grapes, and then headed off to sell it. The wool was worth 48 each, which I didn't think was bad considering how little work it required. Then, wanting to buy everything I could before the end of this challenge, I bought myself a cat. I also got this electric sausage stuffer, the things I needed for bees, and this little tree. We named the cat Flame with this pet collar set.
Flame.
But then when I went to put a collar on Benny, I couldn't find him.
Benny! Come here, Benny!
I'm sure it's fine. I built a beehive on day 67. I'd seen a nest on a tree before and took the smoker to collect it. Instead, I just collected some stings.
Oh, okay.
Apparently, you need one of these frames to catch them. I had 2 at the ranch already, but just went back and bought a few more instead of going home. Of course, I still got a few more stings when I tried the frame without the smoker. Then I finally figured out you have to set it down to turn it on. I wasn't sure at first if I got them. The frame still said 0% until I went to move it to make some space at the hardware store.
Oh no.
Oh, definitely bees there. I bought everything there too that I hadn't yet, aside from all these fireworks, which I think I'll save to the end. I'm not sure what happened out here, but one of my new headers ended up way over there. I'll have to pick it up with the harvester anyway. I took what I could fit for now and put the bees in the hive when I got back, then set up this new inflatable mattress in the barn. Oh look, there's Benny. I finally got a collar on him and officially named him, then tested out this fetch command.
Oh my god.
Look how he carries it. That's so funny.
that's
Thank
so
you, sir. Good job.
I'd noticed his food was low and checked the pet bowl. It was all good though. Time to harvest the wheat again. I didn't even bother to sell it yet, and instead went the next morning to buy some beef cows. Now come back here. You guys are going to love this place. See, you've even got a tree. I left them to make some beef babies and took another pig to the barn. Then loaded up some cheese and noticed we had our first sheep baby. Aww. After that, I decided it was time for a break from the grind. And once I sold this load, went to meet the hunter marked on my map. I overshot it a bit at first, missing the turnoff to his place. I'm used to running this thing down mountains though, it's fine. When I got there, he didn't say much, just offered a few quests. First, I'll need to get some wild meat, but look, there's some more bees.
Bees.
I dropped them off and took care of the evening chores, then spotted a deer right in my backyard. Well, that's a good start. My first bee frame was done on day 69, and I made this honey extractor to extract it. Then headed off to buy a new toy, this little four-wheeler. While I was loading it, I spotted my second deer, and then my third, which gave me enough wild meat to finish the hunter's quest. I loaded it up in a cooler on my new four-wheeler and took it to the hunter. Howdy there, I brought the meat. I accepted another quest from him next, this one to find his lost rabbit. I followed the marker up the hill and started looking. Just as I was about to give up, I spotted it. Now I just have to catch it. When I did, I figured I could put it on the four-wheeler to take it back, but looks like you can't do that. Guess I'll have to walk. Here you go, sir. For the final quest, he wanted me to kill 5 predators. I'd seen wolves before and the 1 bear. Either way, I don't think I want to hunt them on this thing. So I headed to the dealership again, bought myself this new pickup, and painted it red. Now I'm ready. I went around the other side of the hill to the gas station looking for wolves when I spotted this bear first. As I pulled over, though, there was a wolf, too. I was a bit slow getting my gun out, but it only took 1 shot. Then I spotted 2 more chasing a deer and chickened out about taking a shot on the bear, instead going after the other 2 wolves. When I found them again, one was already dead, and the other was still fighting with the deer. I helped it out a bit and then tried to shoot it too as it ran away. I lost it and turned around to find the bear walking up on me. Oh, hello, bear. It was easier than I expected to kill, but I wasn't prepared at all for this jump scare. The wolf had changed its mind, apparently. This is exactly why I wanted the truck, so I could hide in it. Okay, I'm ready now. Thanks for waiting. They both gave the same wild meat as the deer, and I needed to kill just one more predator to finish the quest. Too bad I didn't record when I did it the next day. I found a bear and killed it, then the hunter gave me a very nice prize for my trouble, this rifle. I checked the beef cows on day 71 to find there was still no baby. Everything else was having plenty of babies to make up for it though. I loaded up some goats, but I just couldn't make myself get rid of Jimmy. Lowered the pig population again and packed up some chickens to sell too. Then I spent the evening cultivating the field so I could plant some corn. Something about this is just so satisfying. Maybe I should give Farmer's Dynasty a try next. Oops, got my tractor stuck. And I guess it's probably about time I empty that wheat. No beef baby again on day 72. The lady cow is definitely pregnant though. I spent most of that day going to get the corn and sunflower headers with the mean green machine. Then I took the wheat to sell, but this time I took it to this burger place. I didn't quite understand how the price multipliers worked yet. For now, it was just closer to my fields than the general store. On day 73, I started trying to figure out where to place one of these oil rigs, then gave up and did some farming instead. I think we'll plant some sunflowers this time. Their seeds cost the most, and I assume they probably sell for the most too, so I planted both of the smaller fields full of them. After that, I thought the corn was done until I realized the harvester wasn't filling up at all. Oops. I finished that day out buying another new vehicle, this SUV. I painted it bright blue and took it across this crazy trail in search of somewhere to put the oil rig. This platform at the end seemed promising, but it didn't work either. Back to the ranch then. I sold a very large load of cheese and grapes on day 74, bringing my bank account to a very nice $34,000. Well, 32 after I restocked on mold and grape seeds. The corn was ready the next day though, and selling it brought me right back up to $34,000. While I was at the burger place, I noticed the sign had something about chicken sausage. I guess I'd never even thought about killing the chickens. Ooh, look, we finally have a beef cow baby. I grabbed the chicken and took it to the barn. I need to try something. It didn't work exactly, but it did lead me to finally figuring out how to make sausage. You just have to take the pan of ground meat straight to the sausage stuffer. That would have been good to know about 50 days ago. On day 76, the sunflowers were done. I don't know how much they sell for yet, but I already know they're my new favorite plant. Just look how pretty they are. Too bad I have to mow them all down. That's okay though, after I sold them, I planted some more. Still occasionally having a look around for an oil deposit, I ended up following this dirt road that led to someone else's ranch. I met this fella who had some more quests for me to do. First, he wanted me to tear down his barn, which was easy enough, then pick up his fuel tank from the gas station. As I made my way there though, a bear popped into view. As I stopped to shoot it, I pulled right up on an oil deposit. I used my rifle to deal with the bear and his buddy before placing down the drill. I was pretty excited about it and jumped over this hill right into another bear. Oh, hello bear. I wandered into this place from there. It was a watchtower with some interesting junk up top and a really nice view. I didn't stay long, heading off to pick up the fuel tank before it got dark. I took it back to my ranch first to take care of the evening chores, then delivered another truck to sell the next morning, getting my bank account up to $47,000. When I got back, I found my second little baby beef cow, before finally getting back to delivering the fuel tank to the rancher. I got him some planks next, and then he tasked me with finding these treasures of the ancients. I thought I might find at least one of them here on his ranch, and ended up finding this little cave-looking place up in the hills that looked promising. Yeah, this is definitely not it. I'd found myself stuck in the mesh. It took me a while to eventually get myself unstuck.
Oh, let me out. Don't go in there. Don't go in that hole.
And after that, I wandered into another little ranch with a lady who wanted me to get her breakfast. Eggs and pork? Yep, I've got that. The job paid pretty well, and next she had me clear up the trash on her place, including tearing down an old windmill. Once that was done, her last request was for me to clear out some foxes that had been eating her chickens.
You don't even need to kill that one.
Bonus fox.
The next day was pretty exciting. I took a bus from this station to a horse auction. I had plenty of money, but passed on the first one because its speed was too low. Then, by comparison, this next one looked much better and I bought it. I think I'll name him Silver.
Oh, Silver! I think we name him Silver.
Yeah, Silver.
I put him in with the beef cows for now and started work on this corral. I took the truck to buy a bunch of planks for it and got myself this animal trailer too, which I used to take all the planks back to build it. Once it was done, I did a bit of training with the horse there. Yeah, one of us definitely needs some training. It actually improves its stats though, so that's pretty cool. Day 80, I woke up in the barn. I'd been sleeping there lately. It was just easier to get right to the morning chores. I went later that day to collect oil from the drill, but there wasn't any yet. I guess it helps if you turn it on. Well, I've got plenty of other things to do anyway. I harvested 2 loads of sunflowers, and on my way to sell them, I spotted another oil deposit right by my ranch. Not sure how I've missed it till now, but I got right to work that evening putting another drill down. Day 81 was a rough one. After taking care of the usual chores, I went looking for the dog and the cat. They had plenty of food and water, but I hadn't seen them in a while. I saw something moving and it ended up being a deer. Then I saw something laying behind this tree, and sure enough, it was the dog. Things only got worse when I saw a little orange something off in the distance. I don't know what happened, I was sure sad though, and dug them each a little hole. And definitely did not tell my kid about it. I got a little cheered up later though when I sold my first jar of honey for $300. On day 82, I tested out first-person driving for a while before finally collecting my first barrels of oil. I took them to the burger joint where this wolf was hanging out and got $500 each for the full ones. This will definitely help me with my 100K goal. You know what else will help? Beef. For some reason, I felt worse about killing the cow, and it sure didn't help that I couldn't get my aim right and it just kept running away. Shh, I already feel bad enough. I processed the meat just like the pork, well, except I knew how to make sausage now, and left it to cure, then went back and bought me some more sunflower seeds. Isn't it just great weather for planting? I practiced again on my horse that morning, then remembered there was one more vehicle I hadn't bought yet. This sedan. I painted it red because that just seemed right. Then I took it for a joyride. I wondered if I might find one of those treasures I was supposed to be looking for, but didn't have any luck, and ended up finishing the day picking this spreader up. I tested it out the next morning and couldn't really tell what I'd fertilized and what I hadn't, so I just went all over with it till it ran out. I also bought myself a dairy bull that day, mostly just because it was the only animal I hadn't bought yet. I stocked back up on cheese mold too, and as I was loading it one by one into the back of the truck, I finally realized you can pick them up with the cooler. I guess a little late is better than never. Oh look, I missed 2. Gotta love the customer service here. They just throw your stuff wherever. Day 86, I decided it was finally time to search again for the treasures of the ancients, and figured it would be a perfect chance to ride my horse. I felt like I'd have the best chance in the mountains, and started by following the edge of the map at my ranch. I took my time, not really sure what I was looking for, when eventually I spotted something. A little chest near the gas station. Inside it was the goblet. Only problem was I couldn't carry it on the horse. Some saddlebags sure would be nice. I can whistle my horse to follow me though, so I just carried the thing back instead. Finding the first one gave me hope, and after taking care of the usual things around the farm, I went back searching again the next evening. I just continued where I'd left off the day before, going around the edge of the map. When I spotted something sticking up out of the ground, I stopped to find it was the dagger sticking out of an old skeleton. It was just above the road to this little campground, and not far from this abandoned fishing hut. I was close enough, I went ahead and turned it in before going back to the little campground to stay the night. I woke up ready to finish the search, but had to gas up the UTV first. Then I continued my search around the map when I found this faint little path. I followed it into this pit and found what looked like a tomb. I wanted the sword and the stone beside it more. Guess I'll just have to settle for the final treasure instead, and grabbed the helmet. I stopped by the hardware store just to make sure I couldn't sell it for a bunch of money, and bought a few more oil barrels while I was there, then stopped by my ranch to grab the goblet and my other oil barrels. Figured I might as well do that while I was out too. The treasure quest earned me quite a nice chunk of change, and the oil got me even more. By day 89, I had 70,000 in the bank. Between processing meat, making cheese, and all the other things, I was bringing in at least a few thousand a day. On day 90, I used a ladder I'd bought to put up these lights in the barn. These outside ones needed more metal though, and I made a trip to the hardware store. I ended up buying one more trailer, I didn't have two. This log trailer. I really should have got one sooner, this thing is pretty nice. I planted another round of sunflowers the next day, and Clarabelle had her first baby. Then on day 92, I reached the first skill increase for my horse in the training paddock. I realized I hadn't really been checking on the chickens at that point, but they were clearly doing just fine on their own. There were so many now, I ended up selling quite a few. I was up to 79,000 now, and day 100 was quickly approaching, so I sold some more oil, and of course I'm always working on more meat and cheese. But then on day 93, I had a new money-making idea. The horses were awfully expensive. Maybe Silver needs a girlfriend. I headed back to the auction and bid on the very first horse. It was a girl, which was just what I was looking for. I took her back and introduced her to Silver. He tried to escape, but I wouldn't let him. Sorry, I need a horse baby to sell. You can tell if the animals are pregnant if they have this little pacifier by their health bar, like this very pregnant cow. And when I checked the next morning, my new horse wasn't yet. I moved them to a regular lot, just in case the training paddock was an issue, and put them in the pig's old pen. I'd gotten rid of them to focus on the new beef cows. Time to harvest the sunflowers again. It did seem like the fertilizer had sped them up a bit, but honestly, I was so busy I hadn't even paid attention. When I took them to sell at the burger joint, I noticed I actually had all the stuff on the price multiplier board this day, and went home after to get it. I thought you had to have all the things on the board at once. I guess like you're making a burger out of it. It wouldn't let me sell the chicken at first, because this place doesn't take live animals. So I resorted to violence. Then it turned out you can actually just sell any of the 3 for the multiplier. Oh, sorry chicken. After loading up the morning cheese and meat on day 95, I checked the horse again. This time it was pregnant. Aww. I took everything to sell and my new total was 91,000. Maybe I can just keep the baby horse. Then before bed, I made these cute little signs for my house. The next morning, it was right back to the grind, and after working all day, I went and got my truck painted that night. I was going for orange, but it looks a little more yellow in the daylight. Another UTV load in this bull brought me to 94,000, and after another round of gathering oil, I had 98,000. When I got home, I found the new horse had been born, and celebrated by riding Silver around the jumps. Look how much better I've got. Almost as good as I am at driving now. On day 99, I harvested one last round of sunflowers and sold them at the Best Burger to finally reach my goal of $100,000. And it's time to celebrate. There's one more thing I haven't bought yet. These fireworks. I took them all home and then my four-wheeler to paint it yellow. I think I'll save the fireworks for tomorrow. Day 100 was finally here and I spent most of the morning organizing my vehicles for a good picture. Then I wanted to go back to the horse auction one more time. I'd wanted to see what other horses might show up, and I sure wasn't disappointed. This beautiful white mare had great stats that would match well with Silver's, if only it wasn't already the end. I really enjoyed this game, despite a few little gripes here and there. If you like the idea of starting your own little farm, it's a perfect game for that. Be sure to subscribe if you want to see more of these stories, and let me know in the comments what I should be adding to my Steam wish list.